Hi, y'all. Welcome to Nails in the Coffin. I'm Leanne, and this is where I talk true crime, ghost stories, and urban legends while I paint some pretty nails for y'all. This week I'm talking about the List family murders, and this is like a lengthy, in-depth true crime case. So if you want to hear more about it, check out my podcast. You can find it on Spotify and probably other avenues as soon as those get distributed. You can just search Nails in the Coffin and you'll find me. So I'm just going to cover the nitty-gritty of this case. So John List was married to Helen Taylor, and they had 3 children. Helen had 1 child before she met John, but John and Helen together had 3 children, and their names were Patricia, Frederick, and John Jr. They lived in a 19-bedroom sprawling mansion known as Breeze Knoll in New Jersey. They were having some money issues. They were having some money troubles, and also John was a devout Lutheran. He was took his his religion very seriously in his relationship with the Lord. So they were coming on hard money times along with some other family troubles. And on November 9th, 1971, John had put a plan that was deeply premeditated into motion. He woke up and got gussied up for a workless day ahead because he had lost his job. So he had spent many a days at the train station faking that he was going to work, but really he was just at the train station plotting and feeling sorry for himself. So he woke up, he got his kids ready for school, sent them on their way, and he went out to the car, loaded up 2 handguns, and walked back into the house, in through the kitchen where his wife, Helen, was enjoying her morning cup of coffee, and he shot her in the back of the head. Then he dragged her over to the ballroom and then proceeded to go upstairs to his mother's apartment where she lived upstairs, and then shot her in the back of the head and laid her there on the ground, I think in her kitchen upstairs. Then he went downstairs and proceeded to stop all of the milk deliveries, the mail, the newspaper deliveries. He called the school just to let them know, hey, we're going to be dealing with some family stuff. Gonna go see my mother-in-law for a while, so if the kids aren't at school, that's why. Then he goes to the bank and cashes a $2,000 savings bond of his mother's. And he does all this before lunchtime. He makes it back home in time for lunch, makes himself a sandwich, and waits for his children to come home. All while his mother and wife lay dead all over the house. So Patricia, his eldest daughter, comes home first, and she had been complaining of being ill, so she came home early, and he shoots her in the back of the head, drags her into the ballroom, lays her next to her mother on sleeping bags. Then his next son, or his next child, I should say, Frederick, comes home, and he shoots him in the back of the head and lays him next to his sister and mother in the ballroom. Then finally, what was said to be his favorite son, John Jr., was playing soccer that afternoon, so he goes to cheer on his son at his soccer game and brings his son home, shoots him in the back of the head. Later, John reveals that John Jr. had been struggling a little bit more, so he shot him 9 more times. Poor baby got shot 10 times total. And he's laid with the rest of his family in the ballroom. Then John makes himself dinner, cleans up the dishes, and goes to bed. And later he admits that that was the best slept he's had in years. So the next morning he gets up, he blasts the AC, turns on every light in the house, turns on like this funeral-esque classical music through the speakers all throughout the mansion, sits down to write a lengthy letter to his pastor. And in this letter, he just lays out, what he wants done with the bodies, confessing to his crimes, and is just a complete dick about it. So then after that, he goes around to all of the family photos in the mansion and cuts his face out of every single photo. Then he walks out, locks the door behind him. He wants to throw the police off his scent, so he drops his car off at JFK and takes a train, and no one ever sees him again. So the house lies lit and singing for 29 days before somebody comes and is like, hey, we should probably check this out. The police are called, and they crawl in through an open window in the back bedroom, or in the back of the house. And there's only one bulb still lit, one light bulb still lit in the house, and the classical music is still going. And there they find the List family murdered in the ballroom, and John List's mother is still upstairs in her apartment with a towel over her face. So nobody knows where John List is. It's not until 19 or 18 years later that America's Most Wanted in 1989 airs an episode asking for any information related to John List. They actually have Frank Bender, who was a forensic sculptor, sculpt what they, like a bust of John as to what they think he would look like at this time, down to even like the shape of the frames of his glasses, like based on his personality, what kind of frames he would be using. So, Wanda Flannery and Ava Mitchell are like, I'm pretty sure that's our neighbor, Bob Clark. So they call it in and, leave the tip. Hey, we think it's our neighbor. And 11 days later, the FBI shows up at Bob's house in now Richmond, Virginia. His new wife, Dolores, answers the phone, and she's like, oh yeah, Bob's at work. You can go find him there as an accountant. He was an accountant before. He literally just picked up his life as it was before in a different place and hiding under a new name. So on April 11th, after 9 hours of deliberation, the jury found him guilty on 5 counts of first-degree murder, and he receives the max at 5 consecutive life sentences. And he later tries to appeal, claiming that he had PTSD, from the Korean War, but it was rejected. And as to all those money problems that had fueled a lot of this, turns out in his mansion, he had a Tiffany-signed stained glass skylight that was worth over $100,000 at the time, which would be $639,755 today. And that would have been more than enough to tide the family over until things were ironed out and to hold them over until he found another job. Okay, so sorry I had to condense that, but like I said, if y'all want to hear more about it, you can listen to it on my podcast. I go into lots of details. So, what did we learn? Get to know your neighbors cautiously. They could be murderers. I mean, I think we all know that, but just putting it out there. I'm not very close to my neighbors, but maybe I should be. I don't know. Fingers crossed that they're not murderers. Also, y'all, drink your coffee with your back to the wall. Do not leave your back unattended. I mean, unless you just don't want to know what's coming. But I, for one, am going to always drink my coffee with my back to the wall. So I guess that'll do it. Yeah. Don't trust anyone. Keep your wits about you. And stay safe, everyone. That's been the Nails in the Coffin, y'all. Please, if you are into true crime, you're into nail art, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you next time. Bye.